o'clock, and I will call this Barre City Development Review Board to order. It's Thursday, August 1st, 2024. DRB members present are Colin, Krista, Kendall, Katrina, and Jessica, and myself, Sarah. The agenda is available online and copies are at the back of the room. The meeting has been publicly posted and is being recorded and subject to open meeting law and the DRB's rule of procedure. I'd like to offer a warm welcome to everyone joining us tonight and remind anyone joining us online that the chat function should only be used for technical issues or difficulties. The city offers online access at the convenience, and we will continue the meeting if any difficulties occur. Whether you are online or in the room, please raise your hand to be recognized, and I will ask that those of you online remain muted. Those in the room will be called upon to come forward and speak into the microphone so everyone on the recording can hear you. I will call on speakers in order, allowing those who haven't spoken yet to speak first so that we can get through the agenda. If you have any questions on process or procedure, please ask and we will get it started. And I'd like to thank everyone in advance for participating in a civil and respectful way. So the first item on the agenda is adjustments to the agenda. I have one adjustment to make, and that is an announcement that Michelle will be doing, and we will put that in after the adjustments to the agenda. Any other adjustments? Hearing none, that will take us to Michelle's announcement.
Okay. So we have received a formal request.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Okay. We have received a formal request for reconsideration for 58 Circle Street, that decision. This request ends the 30-day appeal period, so it's now to stay. You have a copy in front of you on the dais there. Please review this for the next meeting. It will be added to the agenda for the September 5th meeting. You will need to discuss and consider it at that time, at that meeting, and then if you decide to proceed, then that will allow you to reopen the meeting and take testimony at that time. There's no need for discussion or motion or anything on this, but you are not allowed to vote in the final decision for 58. Okay?
Thank you. The next agenda item, visitors and communications. Is there anyone here to speak to anything that is not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, let's move to old business. The first item for old business is the consideration of the minutes from the July 12th, 2024 hearing. Entertain a motion in regard to those minutes. Anyone like to make a motion? Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The next item on old business is the consideration of the decision from July 12th, 2024 hearing regarding 821 North Main Street. Is there a motion to approve this decision?
I'll make that.
Motion by Kendall. I'll second. Second by Krista to approve the hearing decision from July 12th for 821 North Main Street. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And the motion is unanimous. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to new business. We have a hearing for Capital Candy Company Incorporated at 20 Burnham Street. I would entertain a motion to open the hearing for the Capital Candy Company Incorporated at 20 Burnham Street. All motion to open the meeting. You have a motion? Is there a second? Motion by Krista, second by Kendall to open the hearing Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And we are, the hearing for Capital Candy Company Incorporated, 20 Burnham Street, seeking conditional use approval for demolition of historic building, special flood hazard area, industrial zoning district. Will now be called to order at 7:05 PM. Who is present tonight to present the project?
Jim Tebow?
If you could, is there anyone else that would be speaking to this application tonight? If you could both please stand and raise your right hand. Answer: the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
And if you could please state your name for the record.
Yeah, Jim Tebow.
And
Peter D. Anthony.
thank you. Mr. Tebow, when you are ready, you can come up to the microphone, and we have the materials that were presented to staff. If there's anything else that you would like to add or call to our attention, now is your opportunity to do that.
I don't believe I have it, that wasn't in the initial stuff that I gave you.
Okay. At this time, I'll call on board members for any questions that they may have of you. We'll start with Colin.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Are you the owner of?
I am not, I'm a general manager.
Okay. Do you know when the building was purchased?
Probably about 5 years ago.
What condition was the building in at the time?
Probably pretty similar to what it is now, with the exception of the flood. Actually caught water in there 2 or maybe 3 times since we've had it.
Did, when you purchased it, what was the intention?
You know, we didn't ever go in the building a whole lot, so we had some talk initially about maybe rehabbing it in some, you know, food warehouse or a food distributor. So if you look at the condition of the building, there was nothing that we could do. When we bought the building, a lot of the rules that are in place now weren't in place, so things have changed. We weren't really sure what we were going to do with it. We just weren't real good neighbors with the company that was in there as far as truck traffic and all of our employees and stuff, so they wanted to move and we just purchased it.
Okay. So have you used the building for anything? Just
Not anything worthwhile. We stored some warehouse shelving and stuff in there. That's about it.
Okay. Have you guys made any repairs or all that? Nothing investment?
No, I would say no.
Okay. I guess were you,
I guess I could say we've done some, early on, we did some asbestos testing and stuff just to see what was in the building, which is, there is quite a bit of it, but so there is some money invested in things like that.
was that testing in anticipation of demolition or just doing your due diligence?
I think it was due diligence. We had talked about anything that we had done, either we talked about maybe using the office building there, and it was pretty loaded up with pretty nasty stuff, so.
Yeah. Okay. My last question for you, were you guys aware of the historical significance and or the historical listing of the structure when it was purchased?
Probably found more, you know, I've researched it quite a bit after the fact.
That's all I have for now. Thanks.
Krista?
Have you looked into what it would cost to rehabilitate the building?
So we didn't get any official costs. We have looked into doing things. So I wish I could remember the name, but a company rehabbed and moved the railroad station in New Haven, Vermont. They actually came in and walked the building. People from that entity came in and didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel there. When they came in, I think it was what they would have done. At one point, we had the gentleman in from Berlin that moves structures, and he couldn't see how to do it in either form of pulling it apart or just moving it with the condition that it's in. As far as getting it off of Burnham Street, there was no way of doing it. We had talked about donating it to the Grand Museum and things, and been no interest.
Questions?
No. That's it, thank you.
Kendall?
Yeah, my only question is there any way that you can repurpose the hand-hewed?
The beams and things inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a fire in there. I think the right person could probably take them and do something with them. Person came along.
Right.
Certainly there is some fire damage. They were burned and then sandblasted at some point. I
Yeah.
think the fire was like in the 60s. But if you go in, it's, yeah, I don't know how they put it out. It's a pretty amazing thing. When you look at the roof and stuff, it's a mess.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Katrina?
Well, okay. Do you know who the previous owner was? And was it used sufficient?
The guy named Norby, and I can't remember his last name, and Scott Casco, I think were the. Sounds right.
Any more questions, Katrina?
Well, okay. I'm just trying to piece things together. Somehow it was declared on the National Register in 2011. So it was already on the register when Captain Candy purchased. It's what now we're having for questions.
Jessica, do you have any questions?
I want to know if you at all looked into architectural or historic reconstruction companies because of the expense of refurbishing it, because the building does have amazing historical significance and also had been constructed by the first mayor of Barre, Mr. Smith. And it is the only structure of its kind, I think, in the United States, certainly in Vermont, and it has amazing historical significance. So every effort, it's a shame that it was allowed to continue to, get to its current state, but any ability to refurbish it would be of worthwhile nature if you are able to find a company that will do reconstruction on historical structures, and they do exist.
I'm not sure if I understand what the question was. We did we had a company come in that had refurbished a building in New Haven, with really very little response to doing anything in that structure. If that's what you're referring to, then we actually did that. Now, maybe I'm misinterpreting the question.
That is conceivable. Has a lot of historic significance, not just to Barre, but for the country, for the granite industry. So every effort should have been made, really, in my opinion, to maintain it. And now it's in a dilapidated state, however, which is, blameless, of course, on the part of your company and all, but I would say, but there are companies that do refurbish historical structures, and it's important because it says a lot about Barre, it says a lot about the granite industry, and it's important, very important.
Yeah, our existing warehouse is a refurbished granite shed, and we built a cooler and a freezer. We did that in an existing granite shed, so we're not against it. I wouldn't know any way to do it much with that particular building, but that wouldn't be my expertise.
Yeah, possibly research could be done into it that wouldn't actually take that much time. So the roof in particular of that roundhouse is unusual from what I read.
Previously it was, if you look at old pictures, it had a cupola and a lot of nice windows and things up there. Those burned off in the fire, from what I'm told.
Yeah.
The back wall was torn out and stuff to extend the granite shed with a more
Not being a
modern.
wise guy, but think on a smaller scale of the Notre Dame. No, there are actually carpenters and things that actually enjoy refurbishing, using their talents to refurbish historical structures. Yes, it's not the Notre Dame. However, it does have historic significance. And so that would be my main concern, that not everything has been looked into to try to refurbish it or maintain it or other avenues to solve your problem.
Any other questions, Jessica?
No,
Any other board members have any other questions?
Well, I have one more.
Okay, Kendall?
Is there any way that you can, if I drove by it, is there any way that you can save the round part in demolition, the other part of the building?
I don't know.
Because to me, it sounds to me like the round building is
That's
the
big.
historical part.
Yeah, I think that's the original.
Structure.
Yeah.
And the other part, that long part, is just an addition to the round.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. They did tear the back of, from the inside, if you look, they tore the back of the round shed off to add the square part.
Mhm.
So it's kind of gone anyway. It's
Right.
not in there anymore, so I don't know.
But I was just thinking maybe if they could just take the demolition of that back part off and reconstruct the round.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, but that was my only question.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I have,
Did you have another one?
I do, but please go ahead.
Okay. Katrina?
I just wanted to ask, do you have electricity in the
There's no.
site? Or is it- and no heating, no plumbing?
No, there was no plumbing in there before. So, there was a, when we were adding our freezer on, there was just a pipe going out to a culvert in the driveway. That was part for our. So,
Colin?
Yeah, I'm just curious, you stated that you communicated with these contractors as well as the Grand Museum. Do you have any cost estimates or reports from the contractors? Do you have any record of the communication with the Grand Museum offering it for the?
I don't.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, I believe we have someone here who wants to speak to this application. Do you want to step forward to the microphone, Mr. Anthony?
My name is Peter Anthony, and I've been a municipal official in it historically. Also been on the Granite Museum for 25 years, their board. And the Granite Museum did talk about hosting that. And the only obstacle was how do we move it there? And frankly, I expected to see the owners, Bunker and Woody Burns, here tonight and talk to them about that. But so I'm not sure what this gentleman's empowered to do, other than testify that it has no use as far as he can see. But the tragedy is, as I think Ms. Edgerton had already mentioned, is it is the last surviving remnant, if you will, of a historic era when most of the granite sheds were either horseshoe or ramped. And that's because of the operation of a boom derrick to reach the rails and then go in the shed. In another life, I actually hauled granite for 15 years, and I picked up there for Clark's, as a matter of fact, as recently as 12, 15 years ago. And that was way after the fire, and it was structurally sound, other than the back wall that's missing, for sure. And the crane was operating, and, I knew the guys who worked it. And so far as I know, because the roof is intact, the structure is still sound. Obviously, the burnt timbers are there, but they seem to have held up the roof under all the Vermont snow was heretofore. What I wanted to sort of bear witness to and regret is when the authority to review demolition requests was transferred from the council to the DRB, which is, I think, predating each of your service here. They wisely constructed a set of criteria, which Mr. Tebow has been addressing. I assume with the support and consultation of Bunker Woody Burns, who owned the place. What's odd to me now, it comes up obviously from your questions, is there's no articulation of a different, if you will, hurdle or treatment or question when a building is on the register or of significant historic. And I'm sort of surprised about that. I apologize. I reinvented my participation in municipal affairs and lost track, if you will, after the transfer of authority to you folks. I didn't follow the ordinance writing. So I didn't notice that there was nothing in there to guide, which is the main benefit of that checklist. Because you know what questions to ask and you know what the burden the applicant has to carry. In this case, there are no special, if you will, burdens. So I regret that, but frankly, the work of the council has to be respected in either event. I can't say I'm opposed based on the criteria. I think the criteria has been met. The problem is it's incomplete in the sense that it doesn't allow somebody coming in and taking down a historic structure on Main Street, which has that, on the theory that it was structurally deficient and there wasn't a use. But most of them mercifully have come back to life and are quite valuable. This one has the fortunate, if you will, attribute of location. That's an awful place because I had to back a truck in there for a long time. And unfortunately, Bunker, they actually have moved closer, if you will, over the years. So it's made it, if you will, less, having less utility than it once did before some of the expansions at Capital Canyon. That, if you will, is a self-inflicted wound, I might point out. So some of the disutility of the building has to be laid to decisions made by Capital Canyon. Again, I cannot say I'm opposed given the criteria that you have before you because the criteria does not speak to behavior of an abutter and it does not speak to the historic value of the structure. I wish there were a way to interest the Division of Historic Preservation of the state of Vermont. I have tried that, talked to them and talked to a constituent of mine who's a Barre resident who works for them. And alas, the division is not interested in stepping into this situation and offering assist to move it. As I say, there are plenty of ways to get it out of the way. The problem is the cost of moving it, as Mr. Tebow has alluded. So I don't envy you in your decision. I just wanted to speak up and bear witness to the fact that the criteria at the moment is lacking in the sense that if there were an opera house that somebody came in and said, we want to demolish it because the plaster is falling off and it isn't insulated, you would be asked to demolish an opera house. And I think that's unfortunate. And the fact that you have no guidance is not your fault. It's the council's fault. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you. I have a letter from the Vermont State Historic Preservation Officer, Laura Treichman, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, to read into the record. It reads, dated July 31st, 2024. Dear Development Review Board, on behalf of the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation, I want to bring your attention to the significance of the E.L. Smith Roundhouse Granite Shed in Barre, Vermont, for which demolition is being considered. The roundhouse was listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 2011, recognized at the state level for its contribution to the granite history of Vermont. Notably, this is the only known example of a round granite shed in the United States. It says granite shed, but I think it's meant to say granite shed. The E.L. Smith Roundhouse Granite Shed was constructed in 1889 when the granite industry was the main employer in Barre, and the city became the major producer of granite in Vermont. The shed is named for Emery L. Smith, the first mayor of the city of Barre, who was responsible for its construction. Smith was an innovator in the granite industry, being the first to install a permanent derrick to move large pieces of granite and the first to use compressed air drilling apparatus. The unusual design of the 16-sided roundhouse cutting shed was the result of the Smith-designed crane that was hand-powered on the large chain pulley that turned the center shaft. Despite some industry-related alterations and fire damage, E.L. Smith Roundhouse Granite Shed remains Emery Smith's creation and is one of the last vestiges in Vermont to reflect this significant period in our history. The loss of this granite shed and the associated company office building would greatly impair our ability to tell the story of Vermont's granite history, the innovator and company owners, the innovations established in the Green Mountain State, and those who worked in the industry. Should the shed be demolished, the State Historic Preservation Office would ask the National Park Service to delist the property from the National Register of Historic Places. Respectfully, Laura Treichman, Vermont State Historic Preservation Officer. So I want to thank both of you for being here to speak on this application. Are there any other questions at this time from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close this hearing. A motion to close the hearing. Motion by Krista, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Colin to close this hearing for the Capital Candy Company at 24th Street. Any further discussion? None, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Nay. The motion passes unanimously. The board will now go into deliberative session. We thank you for your presentation and you are welcome to call Michelle tomorrow morning to hear our decision. But a written decision will be issued within 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to go into deliberative session?
A motion to go into deliberative session.
Motion by Krista, second by Kendall, to go into deliberative session. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We will pause and enter deliberative session at 7:27. We are back in public session to entertain a motion to enter into deliberative session and invite the, what's your title?
Permit administrator.
Permit administrator Michelle into our deliberative session. Is there a motion?
I motion to go into deliberative session to invite our permit administrator into deliberative session.
I'll second.
Motion by Krista, second by Jessica to go into deliberative session, inviting in the permitting administrator. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We are in deliberative session again at 7:29. And we are back in public session of the DRB. It is 7:50. Would anyone like to make a motion in regards to this application?
I make a motion to deny the application as it is. And we discussed a request for more information to prove to us that in fact there is no way to refurbish the building and some research into that. So I make a motion to deny the application as it is.
Is there a second?
No.
So there's no second, so the motion is declined.
I would like, no.
I'll try to make this motion here. I'd like to make a motion that we request more information based on 2202.g demolition. Part A, that it is not feasible to rehabilitate and or reuse the structure in order to earn a reasonable economic return from the property. Part B, it is not feasible to move the structure to a new location on or off the property. And
C and D.
And C, the non-feasibility of rehabilitation, reuse, or relocation is not due to her failure to perform normal maintenance or repairs as necessary to prevent structural damage and deterioration. And D, the non-feasibility of rehabilitation, reuse, or relocation is not due to his or her failure to set reasonable rents or sales price and or diligently solicit and retain tenants as applicable.
I second that motion. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Colin, second by Jessica, to request more information from the applicant with regard to 2202.g, section 1, section 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. I'm not going to reread them. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of requesting more information of the applicant, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Okay. At this time, we are on the agenda to number 7, roundtable. Does anyone have anything they would like to share for roundtable?
I would just like to comment again briefly for everybody that, no, I'm really hoping that there is a way to save that structure because I'm almost 100% sure there is a way to
Jessica?
economic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so roundtable is for things that aren't related to,
Oh, right.
our agenda. I would just say that, if anybody was able to go to the Heritage Festival this last weekend, it was a really wonderful day, and the Barre partnership did a phenomenal job, putting that all together.
It was pleasant.
Yeah. It was a gorgeous day too.
Agree.
Couldn't have asked for better. Any other roundtable items? Okay, we don't have any items for executive session. The next meeting will be Thursday, September 5th at 7 o'clock. And we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, a motion by Krista, second by Kendall, to adjourn at 7:55.